Good morning, Lafayette. I am your weatherman, meteorologist Brian Burden, here again on Thursday, April 2nd. No, it is not a repeat of April Fool's Day yesterday. All the jokes I keep seeing on the internet are the same ones from yesterday, and today you think they're real. Yesterday they were just jokes, but today you're like, well, you're kind of getting fooled by those again. But today is going to be one of those great days weather-wise. And why do you say, Brian, well, there's bad weather in the forecast? There is, but as a weatherman, we love to see all kinds of exciting stuff. And you as Midwesterners, you like the same thing. I'm sure most of you have a habit of going out to the porch a lot of times to check on the thunderstorms coming into the local area and whether you're seeing any of that or not, right? So that's where we're at with the front on that. You're going to see something today probably, and it's going to come in late this afternoon. A good line of thunderstorms. We're going to see windy conditions today. We've got fog out there this morning, right? We had cold weather yesterday, so we've had a little mix of everything in the forecast over the last few days and into the next couple of days. It's going to be very typical for spring-like weather, and I've told you that before, that we're going to see spring-type weather where we see a lot of these ups and downs and different happenings happening during each time frame. So it's going to be one of those days where we all, well, okay, not all. I know a lot of you don't like the bad weather too, but we've got lots of alerts. We've got some watches. We've got some advisories out already, that kind of thing. That we got to worry about flooding on the river. I'll get to some details on that too. And it's just one of those active spring. And it's April, man. Now it feels like spring. Officially, it was spring a couple weeks ago, but it feels like spring now. I think maybe it's that April 1st kind of thing, right? We hit April 1st, and that's spring to us. And we just want it to be a little narrow period. April, that's it. Then May can be warm, and into June, July, and August. Everybody likes it that way, right? Something along those lines for sure. But for us, it's going to be a very quiet day weather-wise for rainfall. See, a lot of people think of themselves weather-wise, it's just the rain, right? Or something like that. But we have all kinds of other factors out there. It's either just the rain or the cold is what most people think about, or the heat. But we have winds that we worry about. That's one thing we'll be worrying about today. The rainfall that came a couple days ago is creating a little bit of problems on the rivers in the local area around the state also, so we have to watch for that. And the Wabash is one of those that we'll have to watch out for in the next couple of days. And then we're going to be seeing some thunderstorms coming into the picture. So we've got it all covered for you. Hopefully your Thursday morning is quiet and you're just enjoying a little day. Maybe you got a day off. Maybe you got the kids in the house. You got the little ones and you're running around with them. And if you do, hi out there. Well, good to see each and every one of you and talk to you, that is, not see you. And for us, it does look like we're going to be seeing a little bit of everything. A little bit of this, a little bit of that is what we put on the forecast yesterday for today, and that's exactly what we are going to see. So let's take a look at it. Let's run right over to our pictures, start getting into our weather. It's 49 degrees out at the airport right now. Cloudy skies. It says feels like 47. We have winds out of the east at 8 miles an hour. Actually probably feels more like 42, 43 with that wind. Just enough wind, right? Just enough to take that little bit of warmth you do have away from you. Although 49s does feel pretty warm compared to the 10s and zeros we had just 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago, actually. I think actually in March we did have some too, or in the early portion of it, didn't we? And then it kind of turned fairly warm the rest of the month. I think most of us saw that kind of in that angle. So there they are, 49 degrees, winds out of the east at 8 miles an hour, 100% humidity. That is why you are seeing fog out there, and there is a fog advisory in effect right now. The fog advisory is in effect from till 11 o'clock this morning. So you're going to watch out for the fog out there in different places around the state, and I'm going to have some pictures of that here just in a second. Looking like a high of 75 today. Boy, if we clear out the clouds in front of this frontal system and we get these big push of southerly winds from this system, like we're going to shift from the east to the south here in the next few hours, and then it's just going to pump up some of the heat. Maybe we get to 78 possibly today, or even 80 isn't out of the question. We'll see what a couple of the maps are showing and try to figure out whether we think we might get a little warmer than that, but that will help increase the instability in the atmosphere. And so then your chances for thunderstorms and bigger thunderstorms become higher because of the potential with the higher humidity, the higher temperatures in the atmosphere in and around Lafayette, most of Indiana itself. Illinois is a big spot today where severe weather is going to be, and we are kind of in the corner of that. We're not the dead target again, luckily, but we're in the corner of that, and we will have a chance for something maybe this evening moving through the area pretty rapidly, it looks like. And I'll get to those details here in a second, too. So 49 right now currently. Let's take a look at some of the cameras around the area. When I look at them, I usually start up north, way up north. This one's up by Wolcott, of course, and it's you can see the fog already in there. Boy, it's pretty dense. Your visibility, though, look at that. I can see that's at least a quarter mile. It's probably more like a half mile. For sure, I can see at least a half a mile. So that's not too bad. When we get down to the 100 meters, less than 100 feet, that kind of thing, we get real bad. But at least up towards that area right now, it looks pretty good on that front. Now, we head a little bit farther south. We come down towards the Remington exit. Same thing. I can see probably a quarter to a half mile, but very low fog in here this morning, right? There you go. You can see some of that coming in. And then as we head a little bit farther south down to the 231 junction, there you go. And more of the same. I'm seeing all the same stuff so far. I'm looking at a couple of these cameras. First off, just like you, I haven't seen a couple of them too. I've seen a few of them. I've looked at a few of them already this morning, but I haven't looked at every single one. I'm going to go right down the interstate for you here. Let's keep going the opposite side on 231, the junction there. Now we're down to State Road 18 on I-65 and 18. Visibility looks a little less there, but it's still a quarter mile at least. That's not too bad. That's, quarter to a half, give or take. We don't have visibility markers out here to give us an idea. Now here's 43. Now 43 looks good. I can see all the way to the horizon pretty easily, probably 3 miles or so, at least to that tree line down there at the end. 2 for sure in this one, and that's at State Road 43 where it crosses 65. And then looking back towards that camera, not quite as good, but it's like almost 2 miles up to the 43 exit there, and you can usually see it. You can't quite see it today, but I would say that's at least a mile to a mile and a half visibility we've got on State Road 25 where it crosses 65. This is 65 itself, so that's the crossing where we're looking at on that one. And then we got pop up to 26, and 26 looks pretty good. So looking a little better as we head towards the south right now. The skies look brighter, right? We're also going to we're moving towards where the temperatures are warmer, and we're getting away from the stable atmosphere and that coldness that kind of has created some of the fog that we are seeing locally right now. So that's what you're seeing there. Okay, that's 26. Now we go down to the Dayton exit, and it looks maybe a little more like the other ones. It's still pretty good, though. I can see at least a mile for sure. I can see tree lines off in the distance very easily. Does still look a little gloomy out there on that one. And then we head down to Frankfort, and we're back to, remember, Frankfort's got a lot of water on the ground in the fields. We noticed this yesterday, and they had more rain this year. They had more snow, I think, over the winter, too, compared to us, just as the paths of the storms hit. Remember, a couple of storms, we were on the northern edge, but Frankfort was farther south. And then there was that 2 inches that came through where we got just a dusting here in Lafayette. And we started seeing water on the ground in the last couple weeks there. Every time it rains, we see it in the culverts. So, but visibility is a half mile probably here easily. You can see the horizon pretty easily on that front. So visibility is kind of low. How about in town? Let's come back into the West Lafayette. Doesn't look bad there at all, right? Not bad. We're not having any problems that we can note that as of that time frame. We go down to the mall, still looking pretty good right there. How about over towards River Road and the airport? All right, bam. Oh, I had it there. There we go. There's the airport, looking at the campus, and then you can see a little bit of the fog there on that one, too. So it looks like a little bit of everybody. Hey, we've got one over here by Logansport. Let's see what it looks like there. It's out on, what road is that? I'm not sure which road. That's the road heading out of Logansport. And if you remember it, pop into the chat and let me know if you remember what the highway is out there. Okay, so that's what the one we're looking at right there on that front in Logansport. What else we got here? I keep it local most of the time, local, and there's one way out by Fowler. Oh yeah, very dense out there. That's a couple hundred meters right there, maybe a quarter mile lucky if we're lucky on this one, on the visibility out towards Fowler right now. And hopefully the 3 people out in Fowler are listening to me. And if you're from Fowler, you're a native. Sorry, it was just a little joke. And let's see, we've got one down by the Covington exit. There you go. Visibility not bad there. I can see the tree line off in the distance really clearly there. So the fog not much of a problem down towards Covington. So that's where those come from. That's a website I go to, and basically they have all of the cameras in the state pretty much lined up, and they will have snowplows during the winter for you also. All right, so we've looked at the local stuff. What's happening in local? If you were a weather forecaster, you'd probably sit down in the seat, and that's the first things you do. You just stretch your arms, get your coffee. If you're a coffee guy, I'm a Diet Dew guy, or non-caffeinated diet soda this morning. Take a look at what the temperature is, okay. Plus, I probably drove in it, so I saw the fog. So I'm like, I'm ready to go. Let's take a look at the satellite picture. And I pop this thing open, and I go, uh-oh. Whoa, look at that. And remember that yesterday, I think I started this on Monday. This is your daddy's storm, right? This is your daddy's storm. That's just kind of the old joke about this is not your mama's storm. This is your daddy's storm. Although mama can have some storms, I'm telling you right now. But I mean this by it is a big, broad storm, right? We know we have sectors in this. We have a cold front, obviously, stands out very well back here from just to the east of Oklahoma City, going up through Missouri. Lafayette is right about here, just to give you a heads up so you know where you're looking at and what you're looking at. And then we have the low pressure system back to the south. Well, this would be our west, due west. It's to the southwest of kind of where what we call a triple point, which is an occlusion, and then the warm front back this area. But the warm front is probably a little bit more back down towards us, right? We're getting an east wind. We know that much, right? And that's so that's more kind of zoned in on towards the warm front. Hasn't quite passed us yet. Plus temperature's 46. I'm thinking behind the warm front this morning is probably 60. So once our temperatures shift and our winds shift to the south, we'll be behind the warm front. But all the moisture is out in front of that. And we see lots of very high clouds through this. Not necessarily thunderstorms everywhere. But we see plenty of high clouds through this, and then there are thunderstorms down to the south, and there is precipitation all through this area up to the north. Matter of fact, well, let's put the big sector over it real quick of the mosaic radar there for you. There you go. You see that? And we did catch a few showers last night that went through, and now we're starting to see showers off to the north. We see a little less texture, so to speak. Here you can kind of pinpoint thunderstorms pretty easily. They're a little brighter, right? Here it's a little more muted, so you're more into the rain category up here with this. So pretty easy to see where everything, look at that big arc right there, and the cold front going back down to the south. Here's the low barreling kind of towards us right now. And we'll see where the low kind of tracks. That'll help us during the day when we get into the actual model here in a little bit. Let's go back to the picture of the satellite. So that's where it was. Okay, that's where it is right now. Let's zoom in a little bit. We want to be able to see what we're looking at. Let's go to regional sector. It's a little bit bigger still. You see the broadness. There's the low out here, kind of spinning right there, right? And then Lafayette is right here. There you go. And you can see we're getting into some of the high clouds. We're still in the fog area for us. That makes me also think we still have not crossed the barrier of the warm front yet. Plus, the winds are going to get much stronger when that happens, too. But plenty of moisture up here into Wisconsin, into the UP, that kind of thing. Northern Missouri, it looks like there's plenty of moisture there. And then the thunderstorms head back down towards the south. Sub-regional sector a little closer in. And you can kind of see that there's Lafayette right here. Now back down to the southeast, nothing's happening there. These folks are good for today, most of the day, right? The rest of us not so lucky. A little closer in, there you go. Then you can see some of the intensities there, and then let's slap the mosaic radar right on top of that so you can see it. So there's Lafayette. We're already seeing some showers and some thunderstorms popping up, probably out here to our west. I'm gonna pop up the lightning segment here, my lightning map real quick. There we go, lightning maps. So we can kind of take a quick look at it. Just so we can see where the thunder and lightning is right now. Or as the kids say, you can't see thunder. That's right. But you can see spots here on the maps out towards Joliet and Peoria right now that are showing Lafayette being right about here on the map. And so we'll keep an eye on that during the day today. Not expecting anything near us anytime during the day, mainly today. It's all going to be this evening. Could there be a thunderstorm? You see how the thunderstorms or showers are popping out in front of it. As this low gets towards us, maybe we run into one of those. But generally speaking, once we get into the warm sector there, it's probably going to stay away from us. And it's changed a little. The model has changed. It kind of showed like 3 waves yesterday. I think it's more like 2 now is what we're looking at least when we get to the model. So there's your rain on the pane, so to speak, and where it is out to our west right now. And we're in the perfect spot, at least most of the day, to stay high and dry until this afternoon, late this afternoon into this evening. But we are going to get some gusty, strong winds with that. And there is a wind advisory out right now for that too. So let me cover a couple of the advisories. Let me go back to the local here. And we see the map that's just to the right of that. Kind of shows you your wind advisory is in effect for the entire area. This is the orange one that I'm looking at right now. Wind advisory is in effect for us here in Lafayette from 11 to 7 today. 15 to 30 mile an hour winds with gusts to 45 to 50. And we talked about that yesterday. So some very strong winds. Now, we are also in a blue area, which is for the flood advisory. And the flood advisory warning is for the Lafayette River. Now, the Lafayette River, where they take the readings, the flood stage is 11 feet. It's already at 12.3 feet, right? And expected to rise to 16.1 feet by tomorrow, and that's where it should crest. So that's adding on the rains today. And then there'll be some rains a couple days away from now. So I would expect us to stay above flood stage for a pretty long period here with more rain coming in. Remember, the flood, generally speaking, a larger river, especially like the Wabash, will not flood immediately, right? When it rains, it floods a little bit downstream and a little bit later in the period. So we've seen the Wabash flood where we hardly got anything here, but upstream, up towards Fort Wayne, over towards the areas north of Monticello, all the areas that are feeding into the river fed water into it, and it's flooded. But today, that's where we're looking at. With that front is 11 to 7 for the wind advisory for us today, for gusts to 45 to 50 knots, and for the flood warning. And that's all in this box here. And if you click on it, you'll be able to read a little bit more of the details on that. Look for downed trees, watch for that in the windy conditions. Don't drive across flooded water, okay? I can't say that enough. I always tell the story on one of the days going over to Grissom. This was 25 years ago when I worked over there the first time, and I stopped. There was a flood across the river, across the road, and I kind of knew the area, and I thought, well, that's kind of deep. I better not go there. I turned around, went the other way over towards Logansport instead of taking the roads. This was west. I think it was west of Camden, and somebody tried to crossed through there and ended up passing away driving through that spot. I can't remember the exact time, date, and whatever it was. It would have been the early 2000s. But that just goes to show you don't drive across it. They say it only takes 8 to 12 inches to flood a car and get it moving. So that's all it takes, with rapid water speeds especially too. All right, so while we're still on this page, we notice the temperature just jumped up to 50, so we've had an update from the airport. Winds aren't too bad now, 5 miles an hour. They're starting to shift a little bit more to the southeast is what we're seeing on that front. All right, so let's get into the models right now. And I popped it straight up to you. There you go. There's your daddy's front, right? Well, I can see here where the bulging is. So we've got kind of 2 areas of bulging here. So we've got a bump in the atmosphere right here where we see this kind of nose. Almost looks like a nose, right? It's very small. Sometimes they're just small indentations, right? That's probably about where the warm front is, and you notice where we are right here. And then it looks like there's some more indentations here, little weak troughs maybe out in front of the front, and that's helping to enhance some of the showers and thunderstorms that are out there in front of the system right now. The low is back here in Kansas and southern Nebraska. You kind of see how it's wrapped up around itself, and then the cold front will go back down here. The cold front itself is probably trailing back here, but the showers and thunderstorms associated with it are up here to the front of the system itself. And and pretty big system as it is right now. This is on the HER. This was the 6 Zulu HER, and so we're going to go out there and take a look at the time frame, what it was looking at that point. And when I come in and I cut across here, I see, you notice we get into this southerly flow here as the day goes on. This right now is 1 o'clock this afternoon. And 1 o'clock with Lafayette being right about here, okay? The low is now progressed into the Iowa-Missouri area right there. And we see it starting to fall apart a little bit because we're coming out of the stable atmosphere. It's running into the more stable atmosphere. But we have tons of moisture to the north. So a lot of the moisture is tagged into this thing up to the north. It kind of falls apart a little bit during the day, but then watch what happens into the afternoon hours as we're starting to get more heating in here. We're still pulling up warmth behind it. You notice this behind the system coming up. Remember I said the cold front's back here somewhere? Well, look at it. We're still getting a southwesterly wind, but we have a line of thunderstorms out in front of the cold front itself, and then we'll be able to see the cold front reestablish and kind of see some more showers back in here later. Now, this is 4 o'clock this afternoon, right? And it's still just to our west, and we're starting to see thunderstorms pop up all along the frontal boundary right there. And then as it gets a little closer, by about 6 o'clock, it's just to our west. It looks like it's wanting to push it in here about 7 o'clock. Now, this was the 6Z run. This was last night, so this is like 6 hours old already, right? And we're starting to see maybe a little secondary front, and maybe this is back where the cold front is, back here a little bit more, right? The actual cold front where the temperatures are colder and instead of the warmth out in front of the system. And so we're seeing about 7 o'clock, right? So that's where the 6Z had it, putting the first line of thunderstorms at 7 o'clock right on top of us. And you can see just by the darkness that these are intense, right? Rainfall compared to everywhere else around it. And then we have a secondary line, a third line, a fourth line. This one won't affect us. This one, I think, is falling apart. We won't see much out of this. And then we've got this little line back here we'll watch out for, too. And then we extend it out. There it goes, right? See that? And then it kind of just turns into one more line instead of 3 or 4. That's how it got. And then so in the morning hours, again, here we are. Now we're talking midnight to 1. We have a second line of thunderstorms. It kind of looks like almost 2 fingers on there. At one point, you go back a shot, it's like, well, how can any of this miss us? You know, so there'll still be a possibility there by midnight or so. And then we are 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, it kind of washes through. And by 3, most of it is gone and out of the Lafayette area, us being right about here. And the cold front will go, and it'll change our temperatures a bit. And we'll see a little bit cooler temperatures, and then it kind of falls apart. And then we get ready for the next system. We see the next low starting to pop up out here to our west, and watch it start to develop as we go through the day tomorrow into the evening hours. Here we are, all right? And look at this. Late in the day tomorrow, we got another chance for some showers here. And yes, there are occasionally some thunderstorms involved in here, and occasionally I see some severe weather here. I do remember when I was at the TV station, we had several bouts of tornadoes that popped off of the warm frontal boundary in the Lafayette area, all somewhere in our viewing area or around the state of Indiana or Illinois. I can remember it distinctly, that happening a couple of times at least, so I'm always leery of these right here. That does not mean we're going to see that tomorrow necessarily, but I will watch this like a hawk because I've seen it before, right? But the big line of thunderstorms is still way back here. This line of thunderstorms is closer to the cold front, which is right in here, right? So we didn't get much of a big reprieve of cold temperatures with this. Tomorrow will be warm again also most of the day, but with clouds in and out and maybe a chance of rain, maybe not quite as warm. And then we see a big line of thunderstorms coming, and this will be for Saturday, it looks like. So here we are at like 2 in the morning Saturday, and we have thunderstorms in central Illinois. You give it 1-2 hours to get to the state line. Now you're talking 4 o'clock in the morning, 5, 6 o'clock, somewhere in there. Sometime Saturday morning we're going to get this, depending on what the track of the low. If the low keeps going like north, we'll call it east-northeast, or instead of northeast, northeast may make these drag along and take a little longer to get in here. We'll have to see how that develops. But let's go out to the run now. Let's go back to where we were. Let's start it right about our time frame right now and see what the new run is bringing in, and I'm going to change over precipitation points. Let's see, let's go back to the 12Z. 52% of it is in so far, but here it is at the same time frame. All right, and we see the same stuff. We see lots of rain. We see thunderstorms. It's a little more detailed now because it's closer to the time it actually happened. Right, it doesn't show any showers in Indiana where the other one previously did. Right, it showed a couple little speckles right there for their time frame. Nothing major there, but we can kind of see where the showers are forming in Missouri already, and the low is now right in about the same place. It's not much farther off of where it was when we looked at the previous run. Now let's go through this one and see what happens here. Now we're going to go through there's let's call it noon. Right here's noon. 16Z is noon. Okay, I'm going to move my adjustment here. We see the front falling apart, the showers and thunderstorms, because they're not really along the frontal boundary itself. They're in advance of it at this point. And the warm front by this point should be probably past us. We'll be starting to warm up pretty good by the noon time frame, and then we start to see showers and thunderstorms develop out west. Here we are at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, right, and 6 o'clock. So at 6 o'clock, just to the west, maybe a hair closer than they were earlier on the other one. Looks not quite as what's the word? Not like a rope as much, right? A big thick rope. We see kind of the bands, like there's a band in here, and then there's another one. Maybe there's a little low down here, possibly popping. We see the stuff forming behind it also, and so let's see how much farther out it goes. So then it crosses us roughly 7 o'clock tonight, right? Lafayette is right here. Looks like there's a big band of thunderstorms, and they are trying to put a little kink in here, maybe a little wave of something right here. Well, if that waves up here a little bit, it would be us. But a really big batch of thunderstorms just to the south of us at that point. And does it come up into us? It does a little bit. So like 7 into 8, we've got some more thunderstorms coming in. And these would be thunderstorms running along the line. So the line is moving from west to east, right? But the thunderstorms are moving from southwest to northeast along the line as it moves. So you have actually two movements in it. The wave is moving in one direction, and the cells in them are moving in a second direction, just to give you a kind of a heads up on that, how that works, all right? So there we go by 9 o'clock, which almost past us. Then by 10 it is. Do we get that second wave around midnight? Yes, but not quite that strong, is it? It doesn't look very impressive at all. Still kind of has that two double layer little finger look on it by 1 o'clock in the morning. And then 2 in the morning, it's south of us, that little wave. It kind of misses us. Maybe it brings us a scattered shower or one little bump of thunder here or there by that time frame. It's all going to be in that 7 to 8, 9 o'clock time frame where we look for the thunderstorms to come through, where we'll have most of our problems. And then we get into the weather for tomorrow, and that's as far out as it's going so far. It's only out 27 hours on its 48-hour trek. But we start to see the other low already developing, and we're seeing the moisture for tomorrow evening developing already on this chart, which is what time is this? This is a 11 o'clock tomorrow morning chart. So this will be right after we talk tomorrow morning about this and what we will be seeing during that time frame. All right, so that's what you have, at least on that front, where you're seeing it and where you're looking at it, and the next storm out towards the west. So we're going to get into a developing pattern like that. Let's pop into the temperatures real quick. Go back. We'll see what the new run is saying real quick here, temperature-wise, and you can see we're kind of on the edge. And I'm going to go in close. We can see the low. We know where the low is out to our west. Let's go in close to Lafayette and pick up on the temperatures a little bit easier here. So here we were at 9 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock it says we should be right on the borderline of 47 to 53, and I think when I started we were 47 and we're now 50, right? Yeah, there we go. So we're right on track of where we're supposed to be, right in that time frame between 9 and 10. So there we are. Now we are at 10 o'clock. It shows us at 53. And look at the increase, like 10 degrees in an hour there. So between 10 and 11, and our wind shift due south, right? So we went from, when you look at the wind barb, see the direction on the wind barb, it's going to this direction, right? So we are work from. So we consider these winds from the southeast moving to the northwest at 10 knots is what this one shows, all right? So, and now watch how that moves to the south. See how the next one, hopefully you can see it on your screen, it's coming from the due south, moving towards the north. So, from the south, at 15 miles an hour, we start picking up our wind speeds too. And we'll get to that in a second too, because a lot of our weather is today, so I'm going to focus a lot on today. So here we go. Today. Or there we go. I'm going to write a song like that. 69 by 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, here we are in the afternoon. 72, 73, 75. The 80s are not very far away. They're already down to Terre Haute. At that point at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So this is creating instability. The cold air has retreated a bit to the north, and the low is still back out here. The second low is back out to the west. Our first low is now up to the southern Wisconsin. By that time frame, we move along. It looks like we get right near 77 to 73, somewhere in there, just for an hour maybe or so. But then we're now pushing with the system. It's still hovering in right around 80 to around Terre Haute by, what is that? That is 6 o'clock. And then by 7 o'clock, when the front hits us, when the thunderstorms come through, we start dropping our temperature off. But look at the temperatures behind. They're in the 60s, right? Your cold front's still way back here. So there's the low. It's now north of Des Moines, and it's just going back up into Wisconsin, it looks like, at this point. And sure enough, it's kind of just tracking off that direction, which helps us keep our temperatures just in the 60s because we stay in the warmth. But that's going to help allow the next system to build itself right back up, right? So we stay fairly warm overnight tonight, right? And we have another fairly warm day tomorrow. It'll be in the 60s for your highs officially, but look at during the day. Then by the morning, we're down to around 55, 56, 55. And then we rebound really quickly in the morning. Tomorrow morning, we're back into the 60s, and it's only out to 29 hours at that point. Let's take a look at the winds, though, now. Let's go back to where we are now. There we are. Wind gusts. Okay, wind gusts. We can see there's lots of different, the darker spots here usually indicate where your winds are, the stronger gusty winds. I see 26 down at Crawfordsville, with us being at like 14, which is about right for right now. This is very close to where we should be. So remember, this is the model run indicating what it thinks is going to happen. And boom, we immediately by 11, we're up to 28, and then we're into the 30s. Right away. Now, 31 knots is about 35 miles an hour. So we're already looking at that. And look at this big pocket of 40s out here. We're already in the mid 40s, 42, 40, 42. So now you're talking closing in on 50 miles an hour. I see a couple spots there at 43. There you go. And then we're in the 30s. So there we are, 32. But watch the shift. It's coming towards us a little bit as we go through the day. But the big winds are way up into northern Illinois. And, of course, they have advisories there all day, too, also, just like we do here. We're hanging in the low 30s for gusts, which gets us gusts of 35 to 40 miles an hour. And then we kind of press on through. Boom. We're still... Look at that. We're still hovering 35 knots, which is 40 miles an hour in the early morning hours. Let's see, the early time frame right before the front comes through, all right? So now here we are. This is 4 o'clock this afternoon. It's still windy. 5, it kind of drops a little bit, but that's because all the stuff is coming in on us at 6 to 7, and we'll have jumbled winds. We'll have winds out in front, right, that are still 35. We'll have winds around the frontal system, which are back into the 20s, and then the cells themselves might have 45 knot winds in them. So we'll keep an eye on that. It goes through, and they've covered the advisory all the way out to 11 o'clock tonight, which is by the time frame most of the weather passes us, right? So you can see that. Look at it. Here's the pocket. Let's see what the numbers are there. Look at that. Gust of 46 just southwest of Lafayette. Now, this is a specific thunderstorm, right? That specific thunderstorm may not be in that exact spot this evening. It might be up here. It might be right over Lafayette. It might be south of Lafayette. But there's got some kind of little boundary. Remember I said there was a good pack of stuff south of us, and there was some stuff just on the we were just on the northern edge of when we looked at the thunderstorms. Matter of fact, let's switch it over to rain real quick here. Winter preset. And remember, look at it, there's your thick band right there that we could see. We talked about that just a little bit ago, just to give you an idea. Whoops, temperatures. There we go, wind gusts. Back to wind gusts. So here we are at 8 o'clock, right as everything's coming through. And look how it's a much bigger ball. So it goes from a small line of stuff to a big pocket right here, which makes me think that's going to engulf Lafayette pretty easily this evening around 7 o'clock or so. And so thunderstorms have their own winds, too. There's several different cores of wind with a thunderstorm. A lot of times thunderstorms push wind along with them, right? So they have their own gust fronts that come with them, and wind is straight line winds that we call them, right? Of course, you can get a tornado out of a thunderstorm, out of your supercells especially. But then there's a wind that comes and from the downdraft because there's an updraft and a downdraft, so to speak. I just did it backwards, okay? The updraft and a downdraft on the backside, right? So one side has the updraft, one side has the downdraft. But when that downdraft hits the ground, where does it go? It has to go somewhere. It spreads out in a big circle. And this is where you get your microbursts and your macrobursts from a thunderstorm. So say the thunderstorm's 4 miles wide, that microburst or macroburst will be spread out around that, and that can create wind too. So you have all kinds of different winds associated in there, and that's why you get these pockets of 50-mile-an-hour wind potential, right? And so gusts of 50 are not out of the question this evening, 50 miles an hour, and that's why they have the advisory out for this evening from what's the time frame? Let me make sure it is. Well, they stop it at 7. I would not stop it at 7 o'clock. It says 11 to 7 today for the wind advisory on my numbers. Hopefully I got those right. I would stop it at 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 because we're still gusty. Plus, we'll probably still see some maybe 30-knot winds afterwards. All right, so and we know one thing. The sun will still be up. It'll still be light. We'll be able to see a lot of this stuff, which is kind of cool for those of you who like to walk out to your porches, all right? So then the winds go through, and we stay gusty overnight, and they're still out of the south, which is going to help with that temperature, right? And a lot of wind goes back out over Lake Michigan and up into southern Wisconsin. Michigan. Sorry about that, Michiganders. Just a slip of the tongue. And then we kind of calm down for tomorrow a bit compared to today. We're back down to 15, 16 knots by tomorrow morning. And then we're in the 9 to 10 range for most of the day. But look at this. We start to see the next little gust front and then the next little patch. Remember where that rain was? We go back and we switch it to the rain real quick. There it is. And then you see the showers and thunderstorms. So this is what? This is 5 o'clock tomorrow evening, and here's the next band of showers. As we're starting to get more data on the information, it's now 70% done on its 48-hour run. So we watched this on that one, right, come up to us, and here we go. This is, again, back to 5 o'clock. There's Lafayette. Looks like Crawfordsville. And then south of there, right along the I-70 corridor right there, 70 or 74, you're going to be seeing rain there. And then it looks like the rain gets to us by right around 6 o'clock. But this, again, spotty thunderstorms in here. Spotty showers, maybe not as intense as some cold fronts you'll see, but we still could see some severe weather pop out of this, all right? Because we do have the severe weather chances today and tomorrow. So here's what it looks like on that Storm Prediction Center. Here's where it is today. And obviously the biggest center is out near where the low is, where a lot of the intensity is. That's where your best chances for enhanced weather are right now with this. We are in the slight risk category for it today. And you notice there's a big bulge up where the front is, advancing in, and where the warm front and sector is advancing towards already. Okay, so that brings us, what does that mean for us? Well, tornado chances are there, but it does say on the very low intensity possibility for that, and that's where we are. We're inside one of those brackets, all right? Wind is definitely, we're in the yellow on that, so much better chance of that. And on the hail, not quite as much. So wind more than anything, tornadoes less of an opportunity, a better chance. Obviously, the focal point is up near the Mississippi River there in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and eastern Iowa. But that means the rest of the state still has an opportunity. And when we looked at that, when I looked at the radar that we were seeing, because basically when we're looking at the model, I'm looking at what the model thinks the rain is going to be, right? And where the thunderstorms, I'm looking at intensities on there. And it wasn't a big, it's not as strong as I've seen it in the past. Hence the thunderstorms this afternoon and into this evening won't be as strong. At least they don't look like that as my normal look at what I've seen over the years. But that doesn't mean we won't get something out of here, because there's obviously that potential is there. So we go back to categorical. There it is. All right, that's for today. Now we're going to have some kind of repeat tomorrow, right? What are we going to see tomorrow? Well, tomorrow, not as intense. Most of the intensity is back out where the low is tomorrow, right? But you notice, remember the warm sector? Look at this. That's right where the warm sector is as it comes through. And that would be us around 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow evening with a band of showers and some thunderstorms in there tomorrow. Is there a chance for tornadoes in there? Well, very slight risk. But again, I have seen it on warm frontal boundaries before, so something to keep in mind. And that's kind of acting like a warm frontal boundary where it is tomorrow. Definitely a good chance for the wind always with that. And hail tomorrow, maybe. It looks like we're still in the hail category on that too this time of the year. And then we calm down a little bit on day 3 as most of it has passed us overnight tomorrow night into Saturday morning, right? Saturday morning takes a lot of the rain for us, and that's where we'll see most of that. And I haven't even gotten to that yet. Here it is, 9:40, and we've just talked about today, and we've just gotten into the winds, the temperatures, where everything's going to be, where the severe weather is going to be at, right? And so let's go back to the model. There's that warm front for tomorrow evening. We got a couple more hours in already. It goes past us. Boom, there it is. It's kind of clearing us, although I see some scattered showers or a thunderstorm or two back in here. This is by 8 o'clock, though. There's the rain right on top of Lafayette still. So it looks like tomorrow evening, there you are at 5, 6, 7 o'clock, you're going to see a chance there, and by 8, it's trying to pass through, and by now, when we wait for the next extended cold front to come out to us, and to do that, we need to go out on a different model to go a little farther out, because the HER is a short-range model, 18 hours, and then every 6 hours it puts out a 48-hour forecast. But it goes by every hour, which is nice because you can kind of pinpoint stuff pretty accurately at times on these. All right, so there we go on that. Here's the next system. We've teed it up for tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock, and it shows lines in the same place, right? That's exactly where it is. And now we got another hour in on it. Let's go, boom, boom. There it goes to the north, and we see the next system bumping out. We'll come back to the HER maybe right before we leave just to see what happens with it, all right? So here's the NAM nest. This will go out a little bit farther. It's already got the warm sector past us to the north. And if I go back and look at this, see, this doesn't look impressive at all in the NAM. Doesn't look like much with it there. But we still we're in a category for severe weather for tomorrow evening, especially. So that's something we'll have to keep in mind, even though the NAM doesn't look quite as impressive with it. It does like the thunderstorm coming in with the line. This is 1, 2, 3 in the morning now. On Saturday morning, but I noticed there's a lot of break up here, and then your line of thunderstorms is down here on this model for this on the NAM, and then it brings it in close to us. Lafayette is right here, all right. Now we are at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. It wants to bring the first chance of thunderstorms in on us Saturday morning. But what time is it? It's Saturday morning. It's overnight. The atmosphere has become stable. The thunderstorms don't get as big. Your severe weather chances break down. Remember when we looked at day 3 on Saturday? Didn't have us in it, did it? Had us just on the edge of the very slight risk of the lowest area, and it started to pinpoint out here because it's going to look into the evening, because these thunderstorms probably will not produce any type of severe weather. They'll just be a line of thunderstorms, and you'll hear some cracks of thunder. And based on the fact that the bubble of Lafayette, we're breaking apart right here, is there, means, look at that, most of the thunderstorms are still downstate, southern Illinois, southern Indiana. It looks like they'll get more than we will. And we go out past that period, but we stay in the rain. Unfortunately, if you have activities on Saturday, this is all rain, still raining at 2 o'clock because the front is kind of sliding southwest to northeast. So it looks like it wants to keep us in the rain most of the day. In the morning hours especially, and then into the early afternoon. So that's the NAM nest. So then we'll tack on top of that, and we'll see what the GFS is. We'll go out to the long range already, since I've used up so much time already just talking about what's going on today. And we see the line going through already, right? Remember, a bigger model look at this. And we go out farther, and we see what we do see is some cold air finally coming back into the picture. And when I say finally coming back into the picture, we've been talking about this cold air coming in on Sunday morning, Easter morning, since Monday at least, maybe even last week. It's hard to say. I remember talking about it. And so this line right here, the 540 line, which we don't see much of in the summer, but we do a bit still in the spring, and we see a lot of in the winter, obviously, is the line generally where the freezing line is. This is not exact science. It's just a rough estimate. That's why it's kind of darkened in on maps. Usually above it or east of it, depending on direction, if it's north, south, east, or west, you see snow up here, right? That's what you're seeing. You're seeing rain south of it. And generally along that line, there'll be some freezing temperatures, or it'll be below zero or below freezing above it, right? And so then it kind of wanders around us there Sunday and Monday. Oh, look at that. Oh, there's some chance for some snow coming off of the lake Tuesday. Now, Could that be our last flurries, April 7th of the year? We'll have to see on Tuesday morning if there's some potential with that. That's close enough to us. Definitely looks like maybe out towards Logansport, Delphi, Logansport, Monticello, back up towards Lake Michigan. It could get a little bit of snow with the cold temperatures in here for a few days, and then rebounds back. And did you notice the dark purple line going across on Tuesday into Wednesday, and it moved back across us and is now up to our northeast by that time frame? So now we're back into the warm sector. So the early portions of next week look to be cold, chilly, maybe below normal to normal, right? Then we're going to get normal to above normal, it looks like, late on Wednesday into Thursday, Friday, and now we start to see some more arcing of precipitation and starting to set up a spring look again. As we push into next weekend, next Friday or Saturday, we're in the same spot that we talked about last week. Where would the kind of west to east category of rain set up possibly like we saw last week? And this is similar to last week, where now we've been into rain. We've had rain for yesterday and today and tomorrow for 2 or 3 or 4 days in a row. Late next week, it looks like the 10th of April, 11th, anywhere in there. See how it's all running west to east along our frontal boundaries are kind of setting up there, and when you get into that pattern, you may stay in rain for a while. Let's see how long it lasts. Saturday, then it kind of breaks up on Saturday, and it moves farther to the north on us by next Sunday. So next week looks to be cold and chilly early in the week, maybe a little bit of rain through the latter portions of the week, and then by the time we get to Sunday, we're back into the warmth again for a while, and we look a little more like spring again, and we just kind of stay there, scattered showers. I don't see anything real major fronts anywhere now after this next couple days. There's something that could be something we'll have to watch out for way out on April 14th. And then, let's see, April 15th, it's so far out, it's hard. You're talking 2 weeks now, guys. But I think we're going to a ball game in Cincinnati on April 15th. If we can get there, we get the chances. It looks clear on that day for me going to the ball game on that day. And yes, I'm going with a friend. No Cubs there, but we're going to a Cincinnati Giants game, and he loves the Giants, and we love him. So we're going. Plus, we love baseball. All right, so April 17th, nothing way out there. Wow, look at that. All right, so let's go back and look at the temperatures. I've got a little bit of time for the temperatures on here, and the temperatures say this. When I go to the surface chart and I go back, let's go back to what we're looking at. And now let's zoom in. We've looked at some fronts. We know it's going to get chilly, right? So let's look into our sector a little closer so we can kind of pinpoint Lafayette right here. And here we are this morning. It's Thursday into the evening hours. This is 21Z, which is 5 o'clock this afternoon, and it shows a gusty wind of 20 knots, 25 knots, at 72 degrees. And you notice on the finger, I'm pointing at the screen. I'm sorry about that. But the indicator gives me some temperature, gives me the pressure, gives me the speed at that spot where the finger, where my finger is pointed to right there on the screen. What is it? The cursor. The cursor is, and it tells me the direction of the winds, 1950 degrees at 24 knots, all right? But I can look at the wind barb also right there, which shows 25 knots. 2 long ones and a short one mean 25, and then it's showing the direction from which it's coming to the station. All right, so that's where that is. And so that's a southerly wind. So here we are this evening, right? And we watch the temperatures overnight. They drop off, but they're not bad. Tomorrow's not bad either. We get back into the 70s somewhere. Have you noticed that the HERS temperatures have been closer than some of these longer range temperatures? The longer range temperatures have showed us trends, but a lot of times they're way lower or much higher than what we actually get to when we get there. And so when we get to the HER, that 48-hour model, where we're going to be much closer on those temperatures. So a lot of times you'll hear me say something like this. I'll say, wow, it looks like Friday we may hit like 75 on Friday, but it's only showing us 70. But the HER showed us warmer, and that's what I'm looking at, right? And so you got to take that. That's where the forecaster has to come in. That's where, hey, maybe AI comes around and you're just seeing an AI Brian one of these times. I put this on fully auto and I go to Florida and retire. You guys watch that. Some of you would like that. All right. All right, so here we go. So tomorrow warm, right? And then we get the little blast of cold coming in Sunday. There it is overnight. Look at this Sunday night. So Saturday evening, this is about 8 o'clock. It's still 50 degrees roughly. And now by midnight, it's down into the 30s. And by the early morning hours, there we are in the grabbing Easter eggs. And this has been very consistent, 36 to 38 for Sunday morning. and a 10-knot wind, right? So 12 knots of wind at 36 means your wind chill is about 25, guys. 25 for your wind chill on Sunday morning. So if you're thinking of planning outdoor activities early in the morning, that'll be something you'll have to watch out for because it'll be cold, it'll be chilly. I also think you're probably going to see some cloud cover still spinning around that low pressure system off to our northeast. And I don't think this model actually shows the cloud cover, so I can't get to that right now. But I would say, you know how we get that cloud cover that comes off around the backside of the lows, and it clears out in Illinois and southern Indiana, but the northern half of Indiana and western Indiana just stays in the cloud cover. That could be what we see on Sunday, where we don't see a lot of sun until later in the day. But let's see. We'll see how that happens. Tomorrow we may have a little more indications on it. But that's kind of the patterns, how they work out. So during the day on Sunday, we only get up to about 50. 50 isn't too bad. I mean, the average high this time of the year is in the middle to upper 50s. So we're not that far away from our average. But then we're going to chill off again overnight on Monday morning. We're back into the 30s. So there's that cold push. We're only back up to about 50 on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday morning, we get a real good pocket of cold. We might even hit the 20s again on Tuesday. And is that when that patch? See how the wind, look at this. The wind is coming straight down the lake. And look where it's pointed to. It's pointed to little old Lafayette. So there's that chance of some flurries Tuesday morning as potential coming off of the lake. We'll have to see if that happens or not, with our temperature hovering in the upper 20s to low 30s. And then the high on Wednesday is only like 44. So we're cold Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And then watch, we're going to start to retreat the cold back out of here. Wednesday, we stay kind of still. See, look at that. Wednesday's temperature up into the mid to upper 50s. And then by Thursday, now we're getting back into the full-fledged spring activity and temperatures, warmth. We're now in the upper 60s by Friday. This would be the Thursday, next week. And then by Friday, we rebound again, same thing. Maybe we've got this pattern here from the cutting across the screen again, where we know where the rain's going to be, right? Where we're watching where that is. And where will that rain set up by that time frame? It's still pretty warm by Saturday still next week and Sunday. And we're now, look at this, Sunday next week, it looks pretty warm. Very nice, in the upper 70s, it looks like right now. And so now we're seeing warmth staying in here, even some 80s by following Monday, April 13th. And the Tuesday that next week is going to be, I don't see any cold in here at all. We're all above normal temperatures by that time frame. We get a little blast of cold maybe way out on the 15th and 16th, we revert back a little bit just for a day or two, and then it looks like it kind of rebounds right back into the 70s by Friday, April 17th. So a lot of a mix of things there on that front. So there's what you're talking about your temperature-wise. So I think we've got it down pretty good now. We know what we're going to see the next couple of days with in and out rain. We've got a very gusty, windy day today, but it's going to get warm. So that's the drawback. When you get warm this time of the year, you're usually going to be windy, all right? So then when you see windy conditions this time of the year, as long as they're out of the south, you're going to get warm. You should know that. That's the Midwesterner, and you're kicking in there. Oh, when you come out the porch and you feel the wind come off into the south, and you're like, oh, going to be warm today. That's the kind of thing. That's how the farmers did it back then. They had a good idea. They were pretty good weather indicators. They could know what something was going to happen and what it wasn't. They stepped out off the porch in the morning and say they're facing west and they felt the wind come from their right, they would know the wind's out of the north and it's going to be a cold day. Weather was that easy for farmers back then, and they still did a pretty darn good job way back when they didn't have guys like me out there telling them what it's going to be like, or a little buzz and a little app that you can put on a little bug on your phone anytime, right? I prefer talking to me, because you get to feel for it. I can tell you what I see, what I don't, what I like, what I do, and you get a feel for someone who's looked at it for now over 40 years. 43 years this year. I went in the Marine Corps 43 years ago, guys. Woohoo! Man, it's been a long time. All right. And I've been forecasting actual weather. You know, they started a little bit of small training when I was first in, like in 1984 and 85, but 85 and 86 when I was in Japan, they started getting me starting to train up to get ready for school, which was pretty good. And then I was able to go to forecasting school in 1989 after I did more training, 87, 88, when I was at Camp Pendleton out there. So I was really ready when I went to school, breezed right through school with no problems. And most Marines are trained that way. So, and then I got the luxury to go to the schoolhouse and train Marines as they came through in 95, 96, and 97, which was awesome. And then I retired out on disability because I had gotten hurt, spinal cord injury in my neck. And so, you know what the Marine Corps says, they don't like it when you fall down after you run a quarter mile. Something about that they didn't like. But they've taken care of me pretty well ever since. I cannot complain. The VA has been good to me, but I got injured on active duty, and it's a little different than they take care of some guys, because just like any place, they have categories. Right? And if you, mine was in the A category because I got hurt on active duty. So I'm kind of top of the list. I was usually getting my appointments pretty quickly. I was seeing doctors, and I never had a problem. Other guys, not quite as much as well. I've heard horror stories, but most of the people I know have had pretty good care. Most of the time they've been in the VA system, despite the moniker of them not doing as well. I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying I think most of them are trying pretty hard. So that's the good news, at least on that front. So besides that, that forecaster training since the early 80s, basically, somewhere in the mid-80s, I really started getting good training and getting through it. So that means I've been forecasting weather for like 40 years almost at this point, for sure. And I've been in the weather field for about 43. So during that time frame, not only did I see weather on the East Coast and the West Coast, here in the middle portion of the country as your TV weatherman. I saw it in Japan, right? So we forecasted for all of the Pacific, got to see a lot there. I've been to Antarctica. I forecasted weather in Antarctica. We forecast weather for South America there. We forecast weather for Australia and New Zealand there. All of the southern hemisphere is covered by the Antarctic group at one point or another, either for ships or planes coming or going in different places. So I covered all that weather. I forecasted weather for Africa. Man, everywhere. Europe, when I was at Grissom, were tankers going in different places, and Asia. And so every place I can think of. And I think there was a point somewhere where someone wanted a forecast for the North Pole, which is weird. They were cutting across somewhere, or they thought they might, or they were just interested in it. I don't remember why, but I had to get that. So it's been just about every corner of the globe that I've forecasted weather for at one time or another, and that's what you don't get in the model. You don't get experience. I'm not sitting there going, hey, look at me for that. That just means I have lots of experience forecasting all over the planet. And with that, you see things, and like in the winter, there's things I pick up on that people don't pick up on because I've done so much winter forecasting and forecasting in Antarctica and forecasting for cold weather, right? A lot of it. It's like 15 years of it I got. I would consider myself probably a winter weather expert. Not that I'm tooting my own chain, but, or the horn on the chain. I'm pulling it. There you go. But in the winter, I can pick up on a blizzard condition probably quicker than the guy who's just come out of college. Nothing against those guys. They have more of a broad spectrum on other aspects of weather possibly than I do, right, even. So some of the guys coming straight out of school can forecast okay, and some of them they are learning, just like I was learning at the beginning, right? Let me get on my soapbox real quick. Those of you who are 25 years old and think you should be making $1 million right now, or as much money as your parents, didn't realize your parents had to fight to get to where they are too at some point or another, right? And I hear a lot of that now. And then I also realized I think my generation did the same thing to my parents, right? Why aren't I making this much? Why aren't I making that much? My generation. So I think it's just a generational thing. It's your age. When you're in your 20s and your 30s, you don't realize you got to work for what you want. You think it comes handed to you pretty easily, depending on who your parents were and how you grew up as a kid. If you had hardships or if you didn't have hardships, and so I think a lot of times we're a lot closer to what we really think we are than you think we are. The youngest generation thinks the older generation doesn't know anything. And you know what? We thought the same thing when we were your age. So that's why I say we're very much alike. We do differently things. My parents grew up on the radio. I grew up on the TV. My kids grew up on the internet. Your kids are growing up on the internet and social media everywhere and gaming everywhere, right? That's what. So everybody's got their different things. So when I grew up, you went out and you played with a baseball. Nowadays, you can hit that baseball on the TV screen if you want, on your computer screen. So just different monikers and different time frames for different people, but still almost the exact same people as we were 100 years ago. Not much has changed, just how we go about it and what we do. And eventually, when we're in our younger years, we tend to think we should get more than we're actually worth, and we haven't worked our way up yet. And we think we don't have to, clean out the toilets or the head in the Marine Corps because, man, I joined up for 6 years and I can get okay. But then at the 6-year mark, you've seen now you're in control of people and you're running the show and you're talking to people and you see that guy coming up and he's whining and complaining just like I was when I was a Lance Corporal, right? Or so on and so forth. So we all do the same kind of things on a I think in our time frames of how we work and how we don't work in our lives. All right, so that's it for today. Let's go back and look at a couple things real quick. An entire hour of weather, right? Where else are you going to get that? 50 for Lafayette, that is anyway. 56 degrees. It is cloudy outside right now. Again, an ongoing flood warning is in effect for the Wabash River. Looking at 12.3 was the latest reading. They're looking for a peak of 16.1 tomorrow. For those of you who are along the Wabash, you know your numbers. You know what 16.1 means to you and what you should do if you are living along the Wabash itself. And that peak is again tomorrow evening. Remember, it rained a few days ago. The water started coming up. Rain on the flood stage is always peak after the rain goes by. And we're going to tack on some more tonight and some more in the next day. And they'll keep a good eye on that flood stage. I got to admit, the flood stages and places I've seen where they peak and where they don't peak, I've seen them over the years in a lot of different places, and they're very accurate. That's one of the consistencies I've seen for 30 or 40 years is, for some reason, the flood warnings and flood stages, they seem to know exactly how it is. That's a very good model there that works on that. So believe it or not, that 16.1 will be very close tomorrow when it peaks, and it's supposed to be tomorrow evening, I think. So wind advisory all day today. Look for winds 15 to 20, basically, maybe 30, and then you're going to get some gusts up near 50 possible by this evening, and then the thunderstorms will go through and everything will die away. All right, and we're expecting thunderstorms roughly between 6 to 8 o'clock this evening, depending on where you're at. If you're a little farther west, you'll see it a little earlier. If you're a little farther east, a little later. Pinpointing on Lafayette right about 7 o'clock. So 6 to 8, you're kind of your window there on that front. Winds have shifted almost now around to the south at 9 miles an hour. And look at this, downstate, Springfield's already 65, and if you go into southern and central Illinois, Indianapolis is at 60, yet Fort Wayne's at 41, Kankakee's 48, and we're kind of in the nose of where the warmth is starting to come up already, right? So there's where we are. Tomorrow, 75, another chance of rain again tomorrow night, and then we turn cold for a few days. These are below normal temperatures, and we'll be really chilly Monday morning, and could we see some flurries for the last time of the year? Well, I'll update you on that tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock from 9 to 10, Monday through Friday. And I'll be on here this evening if I see something severe that we really have to worry about, all right? That's great. It's great been talking to you. We will see you again tomorrow morning.